the little disclaimer here about swing trading, day trading, short-term trading, etc. I'll leave this up for a minute. You guys can take a look at it. But this is basically GTS, as I mentioned, is the global trading software. It's a company that I'm an ambassador for. I've been using their products for 5 or 6 years at least. And so I'm giving, I have my own channel here on their team site to provide some of my thoughts and experiences and so forth. So this one will be around, again, as I mentioned, the automated strategy builder, the optimization process for range breakout. So with that, I'm going to jump back over. I'm going to actually jump into, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as I mentioned, the automatic strategy builder, the range breakout, which you can see up here in the top left corner, is active at this point, or loaded, I should say, on this chart. It runs only on NinjaTrader at this point in time. I'll get into some of the setup in here in a second, but it's one of the 4 strategies that run out there that GTS offers from their indicator suites that they have available. I'll have other sessions around, which will be very similar in the optimization process. This one tends to be the most complicated one, so I figured I'd at least get that under your guys' belts there, and then the other ones might be easier to use if you actually end up purchasing the subscription for it. There's details that I'll provide on my team's channel moving forward, but that's what I want to start out with. So what I've done here is just create a chart. LE is actually live cattle. You can pick any instrument that you want. It could be gold, silver, copper, euro, euros, British pound, Japanese yen, indices like the S&P 500, and NASDAQ. It doesn't really matter. I'm just choosing live cattle. It's something that I've been involved in for a while. I'm not sure exactly how this is going to look when I go to optimize it, but one of the things that you need to do or be aware of is that you'll have to find the time frame that works best. Like, I have found that the 10 to 12 to 15 minute time frame on live cattle works really well, where it might be a 5-minute chart for NASDAQ, or it could be a tick chart or a Unirenko chart, and so forth. So, but that's something just from my experience that I'll pass on, is that you may not find the perfect groove that you're looking for yet until you actually try out different scenarios, which I'll get to in a second here. Any questions yet?
No, I just wanted to follow up. I do have the xBrat algo and the roller coaster, but I don't have this particular one.
Okay, so
I know those are not automatic systems; those are indicators.
So you just have the indicators; you don't have the actual subscription to the ASBs yet.
Correct.
Okay. Yes,
so I may not even be supposed to be here. I don't know.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, it gives you information if it's something that's interesting to you. Like I said, I'll provide information back on the channel. And if you're interested, you can click on the link and it'll take you to the information for subscription and so forth. Okay. But yes, there is actually an ASB for the range breakout, which we're talking about today. There's one for xBrat algo. There's one for the roller coaster, and there's one now for his newest indicator, the newest indicator from GTS called Slingshot.
Right.
So, but today we'll stick to the range breakout. Alex, are you able to hear us yet? Okay. All right. So I'll move on. So anyway, so I picked the 12-minute time frame just from my experience on using on various indicators, stuff like that. The range breakout is also a standalone indicator. It doesn't have to be run through an automatic strategy builder. So I have used that, and that's standalone, so to come up with the 12-minute time frame. But let's see how it works from an automatic strategy builder. So what you need to do is you just right click on and you'll see an option down here for strategies. So you click on the strategies, and as I mentioned, you'll see the 4 different automatic strategy builders. I already selected ahead of this class the range breakout, so I don't have to reselect it. It's right there already. And then on the right-hand side, the right well, I guess you'd say, of this window, you can see there's a lot of parameters and that you can use to try to find the perfect groove on how you want to run this. Now, one of the suggestions is you can run it on an account. I'd run everything on simulation accounts first for a while, just to make sure things look good before moving it over to my personal trading account. I'm not going to go for today's session. I'm not going to go through every one of these parameters to explain what they mean. That is something when you do get the if you do purchase a subscription, there's boot camps that GTS has available that you can review to go into the explanation of each one. I will go into them today as needed based on my optimization and so forth. But I do want to run through a little bit right now of these parameters and what they can be used for. So I'm sticking with the simulation account right now. I don't want to run this on my real account and have trades automatically happen until I see how well it's performing from our strategy performance report. This first group here comes into play, in particular, the long trades enabled, short trades enabled. Initially, I'm going to have them both checked off because I want to see how the strategy works, both going long and going short against the live cattle contracts. I always pick the historical trades enabled because I have this chart behind us, this chart back here. I have it on a 35-day look back, so I want to see how this thing performs over 35 days. So I will have the historical trades enabled. And at some point after, near the end of the session, if everything's looking good, I will click on this auto entries enabled. That will allow trades to automatically occur. Now, there is a caveat on automatically occurring, which I'll get to around support and resistance zones that I think help enhance the results, but we'll get to that closer to the end of this session. Any questions so far?
Nope, sounds good.
Okay. Now, in the range breakout, I'm going to just click these down here. There's these 4 types of trades that you can actually run off the screen at the same time if you want. I do not run the reversal. I'll probably discuss this. If there's time today, I can get into it. If not, I'll have a separate session for it. I don't run the reversal on this trade. The reversal typically is something, and it may not pertain so much to live cattle, but it could be like something in the gold. If you want to trade gold commodity, gold futures, you might see it in there when there's some sort of economic data that comes out. Same thing with like the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 ES, those contracts. Those, when you have the Fed chairman reports and other sort of consumer price index or GDP data, those are where they're data events, and that's when I would typically use the reversal trade. So right now you can see I do not have it enabled. That's not checked. So I'm not going to worry about that. However, the opening trade, the straddle, and the continuation trade, I do use on this trade, and I'll get down to each one right now. So the opening trade is, I'll bring it up an example here when I enable this for the first run to go into the range breakout opening. But the opening trade will basically is when the market opens over, and you can see the 12-minute time frame that I'm using. For that 12-minute, what was the low and the high? That's the opening range, and that is what pretty much drives the trades that you'll be seeing here that could potentially be candidates for automatic trading. It'll have a bias based on that. Like if it's looking short, you'll see the color red, which we'll look at. If it looks like it's going a bullish market, you'll see green. The straddle trade comes into play here when it's a neutral. So if it's yellow and it doesn't know yet which way in that first 12 minutes it's going, then the neutral trade will put trades on either side and kick one off. If the parameters match up properly, they'll kick off the trade. A continuation trade is basically later on in the day, if the chart comes back in or through, there could be some runners and so forth. The continuation trade, if the rules warrant a trade, they could be automatically tracked as well. I will come back to each one of the. I'll come back to at least the opening trade based on how much time we have today, and go through those parameters and so forth. But I do want to get through these. Well, before I move on to the actual sessions and what that means, is there any questions on the types of trades, these four trades at the moment?
No, sound good.
Okay. So what is next is these sessions. So let me shrink all these down so you can see them. Okay. So there's a European session, which is 205. That's when Europe typically starts beginning trading. Some of that is applicable. In this particular case with cattle, the European, London, the New York Gold, New York Stock Exchange, that doesn't really apply. But if I go under here, you can see I've created a session name called Live Cattle. And what I do is on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, where live cattle futures are traded, I'll go out there to see when the when is the market open for that. It's usually listed in Central Time. It's at 9:05, but I make it 10 because we're on the Eastern Time Zone. So I'm actually going to make that 12. And then what I do is in NinjaTrader, the actual bar is printed. These chart bars that you see are printed after the 12. In this case, the 12-minute period's over. You won't see it till then. So if the market itself is opening at 10 o'clock, then I'm going to be making it a 10:12. That's when it's going to print. That'll be when that opening range prints. So this is the only session that I need for this chart. I don't need the New York Stock or the New York Gold or London or Europe. I'm just using a custom one that I create. And you can do that for any one of the sessions you want, but so that's what I've done in this particular case. So I'm going to leave all the other sessions closed at this point in time. I just want to make sure that none of them are active. You look at the enable session, that's not enabled, that's not enabled, not enabled, last one, not enabled. So, I'm just going to check this custom one down here. So all I want to have enabled at this point is a live cattle session. Okay? Any questions?
No, it's good. I've been trading a long, long time, so since '96. So a lot of the basic stuff you can, if it's just for me, you can go pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Alex is on. I can't see the screen to see if he's still on the call or she. So anyway, then there's a bunch of other stuff down here that we can get around profit and loss protection, plotting, trading sessions. Right now they're disabled, but you'll see when we get there, we can set up parameters for all days, selected days, and so forth. Out of the box, it's disabled, and I'm going to leave it disabled because I want to just run the report, run this strategy and see how things play out. And then you can do some colors and alerts and stuff like that. So that said, I'm going to go back up to the opening trade. It's enabled. I want to make sure that the reverse one is off, which it is. Straddle trade is enabled, and the continuation trade is enabled. So that's what I want. I'm not going to. So what this basically means up here is, and you can. These are all adjustable ones, but I'm going to just take it straight out of the box. This is like how many. This means 10 bars, 10 12-minute bars after this kicks off at the when the session opens up. That's how long this opening trade will be allowed to trigger automatic trades. Beyond that, we're basically saying it's too far out now. If something hasn't kicked off by now, it's not going to kick off. This can be changed. You may put it down to 5 bars, but we'll see how it goes. When we look at the performance report, you can put how many how many contracts you want. Again, you'd have to look at the NinjaTrader margin requirements. I think it might only be 500 for cattle. So a 3 quantity here would be about $1,500 that you're putting up for the trade. I do a stop market order, but you could put any of these 5 or 6 types that are in there you can use. The entry offset and ticks means if it goes 1 tick above, let's say it's a bullish indication at this point. Once it goes 1 tick above that range, the opening range, that makes it eligible. That's when the entry of these 3 contracts are valid and the orders will go through. Likewise, on the bottom side of the range, if we're bullish, the initial stop loss will be 2 ticks below the bottom of the range, the low range of the opening. And then you can go through and set your target. There's different modes here. I'll discuss this in a little bit later detail. But you can set up how you want to exit. I'm using targets. I have, as I mentioned, we have 3 up here. 3 orders went in on if it meets the criteria. On one of those orders, if I get 10 ticks away in this particular instance, I'm gonna take profit. Again, on my second order that's outstanding, if it goes up to 20 ticks away from the opening range, top of the open range, I'm going to take profit. And likewise, I'm going to take the last of the 3 if we hit 30 ticks. You can change. These are all things that can be changed to whatever you want. This on the confirmation mode, when you'll see that out there shortly, this is what this is for. These are EMAs, if you could change those as well if you want a faster, if you want something like more like 11, 21, you can go whatever choice works for you from an EMA parameters. That's up to you. The defaults are the 5 and 15 right now. So with that said, if there's no more questions, I'm going to actually run this thing and see how it works. So do you have any questions yet?
Nope. Sounds good.
Right. So if you did make any changes, which we really, the only thing we did was, I had the live cattle one. So I'm going to hit apply. Then you hit this enable button underneath the setup. That means it's ready to run. I'm going to hit the apply button. You get this you get this message on the order confirmation, and then you click enter. Now it runs pretty quickly. I run on Jared, do you have your own desktop, or do you use a VPS or a VDS for trading?
Well, right now it's on my desktop, but when
Okay.
I get into it for real, I'll probably go to a VPN, but right now it's on desktop.
Okay. Yeah, I'm using a VDS at this point in time. I run a lot of charts and a lot of strategies. So the VDS gives me the most horsepower. And I use my desktop, which is pretty powerful as well, for the stock side. I have a TD Ameritrade / Charles Schwab account for stocks, and I use the strategy builders on stocks, but I have 2 different licenses. One for everything's coming out of NinjaTrader, but I have a dual license that allows me to use the trader for my stocks. Different story, different day.
Got it.
So just before we get into the strategy report, I just want to have this printed out. And you can see these ranges printing out for each of the days going back. You can see along here, November 24th, 22nd, and so forth. So again, like I said, we just go down here. Approximately 173 on this day was the high of the opening 12 minutes, and then down here you can see that it was red. So this kind of defines at this point in time that we are looking to go short on the contract, on the live cattle contracts. And remember, if you recall, I said within 10 bars. So if we count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on the sixth bar, we were actually went the one tick below, like we put it there, and that put the short entries on for the three cattle contracts that we were talking about. And then I'm not going to get into all the profit at this just yet, but this is basically showing how it works. If these bars had all stayed up in this range, all 10 bars, then the trade, an opening trade for this particular day would have been off. Like, it would not be a candidate for today. But since we did go below it more than a tick, then the trade's actually triggered, and NinjaTrader prints them down here, and then so forth. Okay, so I want to get back to the actual re-enable this so I can get to the report. Okay, so in NinjaTrader, there's a strategy report. I'm going to pick the real time, even though I haven't put it on auto entries yet. I'm going to pick the real time and historical. So I always select. And let me bring over the. So here's the report. Can you see this report in front of you?
I can.
Okay. So this is just right off the bat, pretty much out of the box, other than making sure I had the right opening time frame for the Chicago Mercantile Exchange for live cattle. You can see that the net profit, well, let me go down here. So from October 23rd to November 27th. If you recall, I mentioned on my chart, I picked 35 days. No particular reason. I just usually like to see on, again, it all depends on different types of charts too. Some of them might be number of bars. Some might be shorter because it's on a tick chart and there's just a lot of data and so forth. But I picked the 35 days, and you can see that there were 54 total trades, and altogether under all trades, 87% profitable. So if I'm jumping back up top, my total net profit during that time frame was $3,525 across those 54 trades. I had $8,400 plus gross profit, and I had $4,900 on the loss on trade losses. The commissions were $335 about. Now my profit factor, I always look to be about, and what GTS tries to emphasize in their trading is to try to be above 1.6. So, from a profit factor. So this had an overall of 1.72. It looks like if I look over at the long trades, you can see, one other thing, the max drawdown is pretty large right there. I'm not a big fan of that number. I'd rather be, in the, below 1,000, if not more. So we're going to have to do some work from an optimization perspective to see what that is. But looking at the long trades, we have a gross profit here of, or net profit of about $2,600. And we had a 3.61 profit factor. So that's well above, that's over 2 times above the 1.6 that I would usually short for. And it only had a max drawdown of 397. So it's easy to see looking under short trades that we were profitable, $935, but we did have that. That's where we incurred. It was on a short trade where we incurred the $1,931 trade. It did have actually a better win rate of almost 90%, but that we will have to look at this max drawdown if we want to. We could right off the bat say, hey, I'm only going to take long trades. And then you can see if we were looking at the long trades here, we had 25 trades, 84% profitable. We had 21 winning trades, 4 losing trades. And then it goes through, the average trade was 103, about 103.50 around there. Average winning trade was $170. Average losing trade was $248. The maximum consecutive winning trades was 7. We only had 1 consecutive losing trade. And then it shows you the largest winning and losing trade. This one takes about 1.6 trades per day on the long, and it shows you the average time each trade is in the market, 286. And that comes into play later on when I talk about some of the support and resistance zone things that I add to this before going into an automatic trade mode. It then goes so that if I was running this across the long trades only, it would, during that course of 35 days, it brought in about $3,400, and that's pretty much where we're at. So all in all, with the exception of the max drawdown, not bad trade, just straight out of the box. Before I move on to some of my optimization, any questions on the report itself?
No, I got it. I got it, buddy.
It's all looking good. Okay. So what you can do is in NinjaTrader has an analysis. Well, first of all, you can look at the trades.
I did have one question. What are you using for slippage? What's your, how are you penalizing your program for slippage in this?
On this chart?
Yeah, when you do the NinjaTrader, before you generates it, you're I forget exactly where. It's been a while, but you can put what your slippage assumption is, because slippage on entry and exit can make a huge difference.
Yeah, we can go back to the optimization. I think there's a field in there in the optimization. Mm-hmm. I may be incorrect about that, but just using it out of the box, I wasn't really looking at all the information there. If it's not available in there, I certainly can talk to the developer and ask them, like, how do you count?
Well, no, I remember now. You took my memory. It's in the optimization rule, like when you set up to do the not the optimization, the strategy report.
Right.
You make assumptions in there what your commissions are. You tell it, and then you also tell it what your assumptions are around slippage. Yeah,
that's up in the So I'm trying to remember. I don't think it's necessarily in the optimization parameters that on the strategy itself, but I think it's built into NinjaTrader when you put the commissions. There's several tables in there that you can set up.
Okay, so I'm assuming you didn't account for slippage, just straight up put a commission rate in and away you went. Okay.
Correct. Okay, so in the strategy report, you can look at all your trades that were out there. Of those 54, here's the trades, and here's the one here we can look at. And I'll talk about some of my thought process around how to reduce these things in some ways when we get there. But you can look at all the trades and so forth, the profit, commission for each, etc. But what I do then, I go to the analysis trade, and you can see the cumulative profit down here. You can see your net profit on the particular days that were traded and so forth. And you can click on each one of these individually and see what happened on that particular day. But to get to the optimization now, it wasn't bad, what we were dealing with, but can we make it any better? So usually what I start out with is I get into analysis mode up here, and then down in this period down here, I usually go down to day of week. We'll see if there's anything interesting about the day of week. And I usually take, a notepad and so forth to keep track and so forth. You can also save your. Go back up here. You can right click and export or save your summaries if you want to go back and look at it. But I oftentimes will just have a pen and paper available and write down the information. So here I'm seeing that Mondays I'm having 6 trades, and that's a profitable day. 18 trades on Tuesdays across that month time. That's also profitable. And then on Fridays, 13 trades, and that's the most profitable one. So Wednesdays and Thursdays don't look too good for trading. So what I'll denote first is let's look at trading on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays only at this point in time. And I'll also go back to the actual trades and look to see if there's any interesting start time, entry times, and so forth. And looks like all the trades pretty much are happening in the morning at this point in time. So let me spread this out a little bit longer. Yeah, I'm just looking to see if there's anything unusual or interesting We're closing at nighttime, but everything looks like it falls into the normal trading time frame here, 9 o'clock and so forth. So Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays are the trading days. So I'm just going to close out of this. I'm going to go back over here, and then the first thing you do is you click on strategies from right-clicking and from the pull down, and I'm turning that off now. We're done, and I want to go down and say all the way down here. We'll leave everything the same, but I want to look at the trading sessions. I want to pick selected days, and we're going to do Monday, Tuesday, and Fridays. So I'm going to let's see. I'm going to make this Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out. Some trades could run overnight and everything, so I'm going to start out at 12 a.m. Midnight, just to start out that way, and just run it to the for the full day. So I'm going to just run it to 11:59 p.m. This gets a little tedious. I don't have the luxury. This isn't pre-recorded, so I don't have the luxury of shutting the recording off and so forth. So you can get, especially if you get into a lot of the different hours of the day you want to trade, which we might look at, or we might have to do as we try to go through. But we'll see how it plays out. 11:59, and we're not going to trade Wednesdays, so I'm taking that off. I'm not going to trade Thursdays, so I'm unchecking that. And then that leaves Fridays. We will trade Fridays. So I'm going to go back here, 12. If you have any questions, please let me know. And it's important to make sure that as you're creating these time frames, that you have the same day, your start day, end day. Now, if you have one session, you're going to just trade from Sunday 8 o'clock p.m. till following Friday 5 o'clock or whatever, then you can set up with just one session to run that whole time. But if you are going to have multiple sessions, you do want to make sure that Monday, Tuesday, etc. are lining up. All right, so I'm going to hit apply right now. We've got those 3 time frames in there. So I'm going to go back up. I'm going to hit enable and see if we have any changes, any improvements. It looks like we might have less profit here. Let's see. Bring the report over. Okay, so we have dropped only $990 a month on here. The short trades got worse even at this point in time. So just that trade alone for those days, I'm going to go down and look at the analysis and look at the days here. And the Monday, Tuesday, I thought we took the Wednesday. So, okay, so we must be running cross periods at this point in time for Wednesdays and Thursdays to be continuing to show up. So I'm going to go back over into strategies. Okay, close everything down. Now I think what I want to do is go back down here, and we had the live cattle session starting at 10:12 a.m. So I think it's over at 2 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. So what I want to do now is just change this from 10 o'clock a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. and see how it go. if this doesn't, regardless of what this yields, I want to go into some of the other parameters are out there that we would also consider going through here. So Monday, Tuesday, Friday. Oh, there we go. All right, hit apply. Yep. Okay, open up the report. Oh, you can see these gray bars. Oops, these gray bars on the charts. That's the times that trades aren't, based on the information I just put in there. That's the time frames that aren't being traded. So back into strategies. And okay, go over. I want to look at the analysis at this point. Maybe still have trades that are carrying over into Thursday from the continuation periods. Eliminate that altogether. Okay. On those max drawdowns being large, one of the parameters which I'll show you is the opening range, max ticks and so forth. And when you go through this profit and loss bar down here, you can see we're at 2,200, and you can see where you can go down and see where the trades, we're losing trades, by the dips along this curve. So if I go all the way back, you can see here we've had, we were moving up, and then we had a down trade here. Likewise, we start moving up, and you can look for the down trades. And oftentimes, let me move this down here. Oftentimes, like we look in this area here, some of them are very small ranges, opening ranges. When you have a large open range, then sometimes it doesn't give enough time for runners. So when the trade actually breaks through and clicks off, you can see here it already maxed out. It exhausted it, how much it was going to move, and then it turns around and then drops back through and then dives down. So when you see opening ranges that are that large, here's another one over on this far left side, then that's one of the other, I'll go into the strategies to show you where you can look at the trades and try to determine whether that is too much of a range here. And here is that max range. Let me actually take that off. Okay. You can see this max range ticks. When it's set to 0, it'll default to whatever it is that particular day and allow that range to be that large. So you saw that the two examples had really, really large opening ranges compared to the other days. If you want to look at the other days and say, oh, that's generally a 30 ticks or something like that, I'm just spitfiring on that one, then you can actually say 30 ticks, and that will force the opening range to be no larger than that. Doesn't mean it won't be smaller based on certain days, but it won't be any larger. Now, I'm just showing this as an example here of how you could possibly optimize. I don't know what it's going to look like because I didn't look at further analysis on that, but I'm just going to, choose that, and we'll see. Again, just another optimization technique that you can use on the range breakout is the analysis of the range. Again, you can see that you can go back and you can look at all the different ranges and see how it applies through. And again, most of them are small. Now the large one that was back here, it was almost twice the size. You can see that it's much smaller out there, and it's 30 ticks. You could probably take it down even further. But that's just one of the other things that you can do that allow you to try to come back with the most optimal strategy that you want to use. Any questions so far, Jared? Are you still there, Jared?
I'm sorry, I had myself muted so I could cough. You were talking about when
Yeah,
you
just asking if you had any questions on how the range, the breakout range size itself, that you can use that to help optimize.
Yeah, I understand that. There's no minimum setting, just a maximum, right?
Correct.
Okay, and my other question is more, I understand, believe me, I understand exactly what you're going through in terms of optimizations and whatnot. I actually had a different question, but I don't know if you want to take the time for it.
Sure, go ahead.
Sort of clear the chart, and tell me what the boxes are, the red box and the green, and then, the horizontal, like you were pointing out a minute ago there. Just what simply is going on with those boxes? What are they telling you? What is the stripes in them?
Okay. So what this is basically saying, we'll use this. Can you see my arrow?
Yeah, I assume that the box is the opening range. It
Right.
draws from the top to bottom of the opening range, and then it goes out to the right, and then you start getting stripes. And
so the stripes,
everything up to the stripes, I understand.
So the stripes are so the bias, the directional bias of the market is the red, means it's from an opening perspective, it's being determined that it's going to be a bearish. Okay.
Right.
Green is bullish, and yellow is neutral. Like it doesn't know at this point in time.
Okay.
So it's using EMAs and so forth to behind the scenes to help determine what that is. You can see the EMAs drawn on the line here. You can color code them to what you would like and so forth. Yes.
Is the idea that each box extends till the next box starts to draw?
Correct.
And so those boxes aren't really directly related to the opening range breakout trade, but rather because, you said it's like 10 bars to the right of the opening range.
Right. So for the yes, let me go back to the strategy itself, the parameters. So there's 3 trade types that will happen in here. The opening trade is where the 10 bars comes into play. But we also have the straddle, which would also exhaust after 10 bars. But then you also have the continuation trade, which has none of them. So throughout the day, if it were to pull back through into this range throughout the day, then you could have a continuation. Could come back in, come and test, and then go down like down here, and you could have a runner to the downside. So that would be a continuation trade running, where for those first 10 bars is where you'll see either the opening trade or the straddle trade, if it was neutral, come into play. So the straddle play only comes in if this opening, let me expand this here. So instead of red, if this had been yellow, then it would be neutral, and a straddle position gets automatically put out there 1 tick above the top range and 1 tick below. And if it breaks out to one side within those 10 bars or whatever you set it to, then that trade will kick in, and then the opposite side, the opposite side of the straddle will be canceled.
Right. And then the other type of trades are governed by the bands then?
Correct.
Stripes?
That's correct.
Got it.
Okay. So I know we're at, we got about 10 minutes left. So I'm going to go back actually to the original trade strategy that we first started out with. like I said, if you take a subscription to any of these, whether it's the xBrat or the Range Breakout or the roller coaster or the new one, the Slingshot, there's boot camp videos and so forth on there. So there's a lot more things that you can learn and so forth in here. But I do want to just going to go back, and I want to just go back down to the one that was yielding the best. So I'm going to go down to select days. I'm going to disable the select days at this point in time. And the other thing I want to do is we know that the short trades were not working out greatly. So I want to disable the short trade. And we're going to hit apply here, enable that, hit apply. Okay. So if this would, let me just go back to the strategy report real quick. Bring it over here. So you can see we're not running any short trades at this point in time. We are making about $3,400 a month just running long trades. We have a pretty decent max drawdown. We have a really good profit factor. So now let's, hypothetically at this point, we're saying, all right, we like the way this strategy is playing out at this point in time. So we know from October 23rd to November 27th, this is what we've seen so far. So now we want to actually run this and just let it. We're going to run it in a simulation account, like I mentioned first, and see how things go. So that being said, a couple of points I want to bring up about this. So I'm going to go back out here. Now, you could technically let this run, but my advice is don't just let it run and not be there in front of the monitor. The reason that I let it run automatically, but when I'm in front, but being in front of it, is because the automated system gets the trades in faster than you can type in yourself and sets up all the parameters fast. Because if you're running, let's say you're running the live cattle one here, you see probably isn't overly reflective of that. But if you're trading the NASDAQ, for example, and you're running on a tick chart, you may never get your trade in on time, and it could be something that's done. I've executed trades like in 30 seconds that have kicked off, whether it's range breakout or xBrat algo or a roller coaster, etc. You can have the automated trading system will get those trades in for you. I recommend, at least until you think that you're pretty sure, that I would stay in front of the monitor. And what I do to add this is, even though we're running, if you see on the far right here, auto entries are on for long trades only. So what I typically do is, the next thing I do is you can, and I'm going to bring it up here, you can either purchase the Guardian Zones, which is GTS's, excuse me?
I have those, by the way.
Oh, okay, cool. So you got the Guardian Zone. Some people who don't would have to draw their own support and resistance lines in there. So what I typically do is I will look, you can run this on the same, I could technically run it on the same chart here, but the reason I do it separate charts is because every time you optimize, if you're going in and optimizing it and enabling it, then the Guardian Zones itself, if you have them, it might take a little bit to get those up and running. So I'd rather have the Guardian Zone just on a separate chart that I can look at. Now, I'm just looking at the 30, the 15, the 12-minute zones at this point in time. So if I'm looking at the other reason why I don't just let it run all by itself is that right now I could say, even if there's looks good on the strategy performance report, even if it looks good there, does this current support and resistance scenario that we see here, does it warrant us running this trade in the long position? And that's, I would probably at this point not run the long until you get a feel for how well, what the individual asset actually does that you're trading. Because we have this zone right here that's going to be a resistance zone. So because it's such a close there, I might not take that trade. But then there's my other school of thought. If it's a breakout, then perhaps it's that's a good time to not worry about the short-term resistance zones and then play it out there and see what goes on. I'll also add in the daily zones and so forth. In the week, even I don't usually go with the weekly zones because the trades don't run that long. But back on that strategy report, the performance report, it did show you how long you were in your trades. And some trades you might be in for multiple days, in which case you may want to look at the daily zones as well. But if you're looking at the strategy report and you're running a couple trades a day and they're running for maybe anywhere from 1 minute to 5 hours, then you may want to look at removing. If trades are lasting less than 5 minutes, then you may want to just keep your 12-minute zone on that you were on there to see where things are going. And here is a much better. There's a lot more fresh air above here. So if this was a trade, an asset that traded very quickly, then I wouldn't worry about looking at all the support zones on the guardian zones here, and just look at the ones closer. Or you can even look at previous zones and see if anything maybe pop up in there. I mean, it sounds like you're familiar with the guardian zones, but that is another thing that I do employ, is just looking at the guardian zones and saying, okay, I could let this run, and if this had been a bullish, right now you can see that the bias here, market bias, is bearish. So there wouldn't be, the only trade you'd be making would be shorts, which we have turned off right now based on our optimization techniques. So, so on the longs, if this had been green and ready to launch, I may turn it off based on what I'm seeing over here. In this particular case, this is enough fresh air for me for it to start. It's not very heavy zones, so my particular notion would be to let that long run if the bias was bullish for that particular day. The shorts are off. This is a bearish day, so we're not taking any trades, any opening range trades at this point. So even the reverse, anything with the continuation trades are off as well, because if it's related to a short at this point in time. So that's just my other. I use it, be in front of the board. There are some assets like soy, ZS, that I've created range breakouts that, as well as cattle, where there's volume, but it's not as volatile as some of the other markets like oil, natural gas, gold, and so forth. But those I may let them run, but you may run some stuff overnight. Like if you have something that runs really well in the European market range, that opens at 2 o'clock in the morning, our time. So you might be hesitant to let things run automatically when you're not sitting there, unless you're up at 2 o'clock in the morning watching things. Does that make sense at all, or do you have any questions around that?
I do have a question on the auto entries buttons there on the right-hand side.
Uh-huh.
Are they active? Is that functional during when the system's turned on and trading? So you can just simply say, well, okay, we're coming up against resistance, so I don't want to go.
Yes.
Short. So you turn it off, and then you can turn it back on at will during the trade without enabling and disabling the strategy itself.
That's correct.
Okay.
So let's put these zones back on, and let's pretend. Well, not pretend. So we'll go back here. I put shorts back on.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't using shorts based on my optimization, but let's pretend that we were using shorts. So I just turned shorts on, and you know, looks like it's going to be a bearish day based on the information here. I go over here, however, and I see this big support zone right here. Okay, so probably what I would have done is come back when I saw that and just turn shorts off.
Right, got it.
Or I could just turn off auto entries. I could leave shorts on, but just turn off the auto entries. But I usually leave the auto entries on and just turn off the shorts, so no short trades would be made at this point in time. Now, if we're sitting like this, and this is what the Guardian Zone looked like for me, and we come into the day like this, then I would just leave it, because looking at here, it looks like we got a lot of fresh air to the bottom side. Everything's looking good, from this perspective. So I would just let this trade run. Now, if you ever see something funky happening and you're in the trade, and let's say you were in the trade here, let's say for some reason you were long right where I am here and expecting to go upwards, and it goes in this direction, and you're in the trade, you can hit this flatten button as well.
Right. Got it.
And that'll just close the trade at. I mean, you'll take a loss, but you won't be waiting on the system itself to die out.
Well, the system would have placed your stops already for you, would it not?
True. That's true. That's true. Yes. So it would be based on right now, or whatever you've set, it would be 2 ticks below here. So that would have been on. That would have triggered and got you out. Let's pretend that you were actually long and you're moving up, and the phone rings or something like that. You got to go. Then you could hit flatten if you want, or or something happens and starts dropping, and you want to, and you haven't set your break-even points. That's something that's. Let me go back in there. Then you may want to flatten just to save that, because you said, "Oh shit, I forgot to set my break-even." So
right. No, I got it. I understand that.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. I see that there's built in a way to scale out. Is there built in a way to scale in? In other words, does it, add to the trade if conditions are right?
Oh,
on
no.
this, probably not on this, but on any of them.
Not that I. Let me. Definitely not on this one. I think that it's just. That's a good question. I can bring that up with the developer.
Well, I can tell you that just reason I'm asking, my personal experience is that really makes all the difference in the world.
Right.
You scale into a winning position, what happens is you end up in a losing position with much less contracts, and in a winning position with more contracts. So you can actually take a bigger loss, but you've done it with less contracts. So anyway, that's fine. It's just a question. It's not a criticism. I just wanted to know.
No, that's a good question. Here's the xBrat algo one.
And I assume that other than the underlying decision making around, like range breakout has range breakout rules for entry, the xBrat algo will follow. But the basic trade management parts of this are the same in all of the algos, or all of the strategies.
That's correct. That's correct. Okay. So yeah, the indicators part of this, and the xBrat or the roller coaster, etc., are part of it. Here, like, it'll give you some options though. Like if you have the indicators just running as you know on the chart, you'll see it print the 3, 4s, whatever. Here you can do the same thing. Like on the signals, you can say I don't want to enter on 3s or 4s. I only want to enter on 5 and 6s, and you can uncheck them. But yeah, the logic of the actual xBrat or range breakout or whatever, that's all buried underneath here and so forth. But it doesn't look like even on. Now the xBrat one is, you might get it because you might get another signal, So if you're in a trade, like let's say, so I do know Doesn't look like there's anything for adding on to the existing trade, but I do know that if you could have multiple trades, like if a 6-star clicks off, your trade clicks off, and then it's going around and your trade's still going on, and then the chart's changed and clicked off another 5-star, then that trade will go on as well if you have it set. Now this is where you can do that, where you can wait until it's flat from the previous trade, or you can have it immediately submit, sync, and so forth. So there are options around your start behavior. But to add on does not look like any of these can do that.
This is very rare to have one that does that, so I'm just asking.
Yeah, I'll have to bring that up with them, because that's an interesting point. No. Okay, well, I know we're at top of the hour and so forth. I do appreciate your questions and the tenants and stuff like that. If you have any other questions, feel free. And the Teams, did you come through the Teams channel, I guess?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Were you on the Teams? Is that how you got notified of
I
this?
guess so.
Okay. All right, that's cool. All right. If you have any other questions, you can use that Teams channel and stuff to post them.
All right.
And then if you have any questions, or I'll put some information up there as well if you're interested in the strategy builders. I know that the strategy builders on a subscription basis. I know that they're working on a new model around that, so I'm not sure. I think sometime in the next 2 weeks they're going to be releasing the new subscription model. But I can provide you with that link to that if you're interested.
Okay. Yeah, I've been away from trading for a lot of years, and I'm looking at getting back in. So I'm biding my time. I mean, I'm with interest, but not really committed yet. So.
Right. Okay.
Okay, man. Vic, I really appreciate your time. I wasn't expecting a one-on-one. I was looking for, I thought it would be more like a webinar, and just.
Oh yeah. No,
so I apologize in a way because I didn't come in.
Oh no, there's no apologies. That's perfectly fine. Like I said, I sometimes nobody shows up. Sometimes 10 or 15, 20 people and stuff. So and these ones that are real time sometimes don't work out the way you want them to, depending on what's going on in the market. This range breakout setting things up is different, but sometimes some of the channels we actually do live trading. And, I could say, the Elliott wave is blah, 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 or the slingshot this. And then you sit there and it's like, crickets just chirping around as you're waiting for things to set up. And so that can not always be that's usually better to have an actual pre-recorded type of stuff that you can show certain things or go back to existing chart behaviors and whatnot. So, but anyway. Well, I do appreciate you stopping in. If you have any questions, type them in the Teams channel there, and I'll get back to you.
All right, Vic. Thanks so much for your time, man.
You're welcome. Have a good one. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.